Hello, everybody. Good morning and happy Friday to you. So good to see all of you hanging out in the chat, trickling in. Cynthia saying good morning and that our new presidential press secretary reminds her of me, which is so sweet, so cute. I would hope that I can aspire to be as energetic and positive as she seems. But good to see you. We've got Bonnie here, Erna is here, Marcel, Anna, let's see, John checking in, Celeste and Jason, a lot of the usual suspects, which I love seeing every Friday. Robert, Renat, Kirsten is here all the way from Sweden, which is awesome. Anka, Jim, Daphne, Sophia, Karen. Excellent, Jan, Corinne, and Lisa. I love it. I love seeing everyone, the same kind of repeat people every week, and it makes me so happy. I feel like, it's our little group that gathers on Fridays. So good to see all of you. And if you've never been to a student bulletin, the point of this is to just share what's going on in our community. Share the art that you guys are making, the amazing art that you're making, and share some news and maybe other things that are coming up. And also do some drawing. So for some of us, me included, this might be your first drawing of the day. But at the end of this segment, we will spend a few minutes drawing something together. That's always fun. So I want to start off, speaking of press secretary and the festivities in the Capitol this week, I want to show some really beautiful portraits people did from the inauguration of some of the speakers. This was of the young Miss Gorman, the poet laureate, who had an amazing performance, and this is by Candace. And she did this beautiful portrait, and she also put some of the words from her poem in the drawing, which I thought was beautiful. Love it. Another person did the same thing and did a portrait of Miss Gorman, and she actually just used notebook paper and highlighters and a pencil. And I love that Trish was just using the most simple materials you find at your desk to make an awesome portrait. And I think that that's a good reminder that we don't need the fancy stuff to make art. Although the fancy stuff is fun. It's fun to buy, it's fun to have, but you can make art with pencil and a highlighter. So thanks, Trish, for reminding us of that. Catherine, I'm glad you are excited to have my glasses on. I hope you're wearing some cute glasses. You usually have cute glasses too, if I recall. Good to be in that club. Another piece of art from Danica was this cute, tiny little cat, and I don't know why. This is a series, there's a couple images coming up here of animals in water. Not sure why that was speaking to me this week. But I just love this little cat in a puddle. It's kind of sad, but I've been on a Pixar kick lately, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it spoke to me. But thanks for sharing that, Danica. Jessie also did a beautiful painting, a watercolor of her dog by the ocean. Another animal near water that spoke to me. But I just love the colors that she used here. And this little pup just looking out at the ocean. And I think it's beautiful. So thanks for sharing that, Jessie. Ginger also was experimenting with some of her materials using background washes and watercolor with Posca pens over top. And I love the way that she layered materials here and just how this turned out. Another hound, a little dog face for us here. But these are beautiful, and it just made me want to bust out my Poscas to get to work with and play with them. It's so cool. One student, Holly, who's also a Spark member, she completed the They Draw and Cook challenge, the 21 days challenge of good health. I don't know if anyone else here in the audience, I know Catherine was working with that. She was doing one of the challenges for They Draw and Garden. So really excited to see that Holly completed this, which is great. So thanks for sharing all these put together, Holly. They look incredible. Catherine, you asked a question about a premiere with Danny and Chris. Yes, he had an interview with Chris that I think is premiering on YouTube. I don't think it's a live event. I think it's a video premiere, but not my department, so I'm not 100% sure on that. Not that we have departments, but that was Danny's project with Chris, which you can find on our YouTube channel. Super excited about that workshop coming up. Super pumped about the brush pens and playing with those some more. Another student, Kanikar, did this beautiful watercolor of a library. I think it's a Seattle library, maybe. might be mixing that up, but she did this watercolor kind of architecture scene and then drew over top of it with the white colored pencil looking lines, which I think turned out so beautifully. So Kanakar, thanks for sharing this watercolor. I think getting reflective buildings is really hard. Glass is really challenging. So I think that this was a great kind of demonstration of your watercolor skills. So Kanakar, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Martina has been focusing on the freehand book that a lot of you have been following along with. You've been following along with prompts that are posted every Friday. I think Lisa got to pick the prompt for this week, which is pinned in the SkoolYard in the Discovery section if you're curious about that. But this piece is from Martina, who was following one of the prompts from freehand. And I just thought this image was so eye-catching from a mixed media point of view, and I just really liked it. So Martina, thanks for sharing that with us. You guys did some incredible work based on Helen Birch's book. And I can't wait to see what else you guys create based on those inspirations. Another artist, Nanda, talked about, and I don't know if Nanda is here in the audience, but I think maybe Karen was involved in this, potentially. Nanda talked about going to LA for a virtual trip and doing some drawing. And I'm not sure what the story is behind this, but I loved her image. This kind of urban sketching mixed with art history. I'm wondering if it was a virtual museum tour, perhaps, but she posted about this visit to LA that did not involve physical travel. But I really am curious to know the story behind that. This was something that Nanda posted in the SkoolYard. And I love the idea of virtual meetups, virtual trips, whether it's from a Google Earth museum tour or Google Street View, checking out some other places. Karen says that they were visiting each other. So that sounds like so much fun. I don't know if it was over Zoom or just pictures of your various places, but I love that idea. So linking up for some virtual experiences with people that live in a way different place than you do. I think that's a fantastic idea. So I'm glad that Nanda shared that piece of art. Maybe Karen can enlighten us on the mechanics of that and how that worked. Another artist, Trix, she was kind of commenting on the coronavirus and the corona beer and kind of how parties are not really happening right now, obviously. And she did this funny little image with some cows roaming around over corona beer spilt. I'm not sure the story behind it, but I just love it. And yes, thank you, Karen, who is explaining that they were drawing 3 places, 3 locations where the other person lives. So maybe gathering images or sending each other images of certain locations from their home, which I love. I think that's an awesome idea. So now that we looked at a bunch of art, it's time to make some art. I have a sketchbook page that is just open and waiting for me on a paper that I'm not fond of. I'm excited to finish this sketchbook. It's a beautiful sketchbook with a nice screen printed cover, but the paper is this weird tree bark paper that from a cypress tree, and I just can't stand it. So I'm excited to get done with it. But today I thought, so for this week's Draw This challenge, we post a photo every Monday in the SkoolYard, and we just pick a different image. Sometimes there's a theme, sometimes there's just a photograph that someone liked a lot. And so this week we focused on mushrooms. And this sounds weird. I couldn't stop thinking about mushrooms. They look kind of odd. Fungus is a weird family of species of natural things. And I just kind of gravitated towards the mushrooms. So thinking about fungus, thinking about facts about fungus, I just love this little cluster of mushrooms. So I'm going to set our timer and we're going to draw these little mushrooms. And I don't know if you have a favorite fungus. I don't actually eat mushrooms, so spoiler alert, they're not my favorite thing, but I think they look really cool. And when you think about it from a sciencey perspective, it's kind of wild how they operate genetically, kind of where they came from. And I just thought that'd be fun to focus on. So that is what I'm going to focus on today. You can draw any fungus that you want, but I'm going to focus on this little cute cluster of mushrooms. And I just was reading up about mushrooms, which, of course, that's what you do, right? Look up weird facts about things in order to draw them. And I just learned a lot about how they are made, from a genetic standpoint. The fact that they are, quote unquote, genetically closer to humans than plants, that they kind of diverged 1,300 million years ago in terms of on a cellular level, that they actually resemble humans more than a plant from a genetic standpoint is kind of crazy. I think that's kind of nuts. They breathe oxygen and they expel CO2, which is like the opposite. It's kind of like what humans do, not what trees and plants do. But I just thought it was so fascinating that these weird, stumpy kind of things that grow out of the ground, have something in common with us, humans, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know if you have a favorite fungus or a favorite mushroom, but, people eat them. They're kind of referred to as the meat of the vegetable world. People that put them on a bun, kind of like a hamburger. Not really my thing, but if you're a vegetarian and you need a hamburger replacement, maybe that's an option for you. But they also just kind of come in the craziest colors. The one that we posted for the Draw This challenge this week was a bright orange that was seriously beautiful. And just that those colors are found in nature is really cool to me, and I think it's really fun. The other thing that's crazy about mushrooms, and whenever you see them kind of growing out of the ground in the woods, is that most of the mushroom is actually below the ground. So the thing that you see is only 5% of the mushroom. The rest is the mycelium, which is what the sort of rooty structure is known as. That's below the ground. And that is actually, 95% of the mushroom, which is kind of wild. The other thing that's crazy is they release spores to reproduce. And apparently, those spores can actually survive in space, like in a vacuum. And with exposure to radiation, they don't die. So that is just mind-blowing to me, that mushrooms are kind of like the super species, and we had no idea. I mean, we have an idea now, but I had no idea that they were that hardy and robust. Looks like Catherine's giving us a fun mushroom fact. The largest living organism is a honey mushroom that was found in a forest in Oregon, and it takes up 2,385 acres when they mapped out the root system, which is crazy. I mean, just the fact that something can be that big and be, growing out of the ground. It's so nuts. Yeah, Tina's saying I did my homework. This is some weird homework, right? Looking up facts about bagels or mushrooms, but I think it makes for interesting drawings when you can add facts, right? But I just love the fact that these little creatures are just, pretty interesting and pretty weird. I think it also helps that I've been watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, if anyone else has gotten into that. So seeing all these weird otherworldly things is kind of where my mind is right now. Thank you, George Lucas. But maybe that's why I was drawn to the mushrooms. I don't know. That could have been it. There's been some weird plant things featured in The Mandalorian. Lydia is making me hungry, talking about a poached egg and salsa. She's putting it on a mushroom. I'd probably put that combo on an English muffin or a breakfast taco, but at any rate, it's making me hungry. But thank you all for tuning in and drawing some mushrooms. I was just messing around with the brush pen, and Lisa's saying that I love that facts are back in style. Yeah, I think it's more interesting to know weird things about the stuff you're drawing. Why not? But thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me on this Friday. It's always my favorite part of the week is showing off some of the incredible art you guys are making and then doing a little bit of drawing. So hopefully you got some mushrooms down on your page or something fungus related. Pardon my dog barking. And I hope that you have an awesome rest of your day and an awesome weekend. And Robert is saying that he's gaining weight. Yeah, me too. All this food talk. Bagel week last week really wrecked me. Our National Bagel Day. But I hope you have a great rest of your weekend and that we see you all right back here next week. Thanks, everybody.